Welcome to Stateside Street, a podcast where two Americans and a Scot discuss all things British soaps. Today we have Calum Lill. He played a dodgy cobbler on Hollyoaks and a villainous solicitor on the Cobbles, Coronation Street. We are so excited to sit down with him today. Thank you so much for joining us, Calum. How
Well,
are
thank you
you?
very much for having me.
Yeah, so we are going to start with some rapid fire questions, if you're up for it.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, Amelia, take it away.
Okay. Callum, if you could pick one song to describe Joel, what would it be?
Oh, it's a Phil Collins song, Easy Lover. That was it. It was in the
Okay.
script, and it was just so like dark and menacing, but upbeat at the same time. Um,
So very much like Joel,
yeah, yeah.
like two sides of the coin.
Yeah.
Okay. Number two, if you could play any villain in any other soap, who would it be and why?
Ooh. Now I don't know. Can you class him as a villain? He's probably more of an anti-hero. I was going to say like one of the Mitchell brothers in EastEnders, like Phil Mitchell. I don't know if you guys have seen that, but he will go from being bad to kind of like the bad good guy, and they're just iconic, especially for like the EastEnders, like the London soap.
I have not watched EastEnders, but I think Shanika has.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
it's really good. It's a
Yeah.
classic,
Yeah.
obviously.
Mm.
Yeah. Your favorite TV or film villain?
Favorite TV or film villain? I'm thinking it's got to be Gary Oldman, surely, but which one? Favorite TV or film villain?
I've stumped Callum Lill.
Or would it be a Tom Hardy? Maybe a Tom Hardy, like he's not really a villain. Oh, no, again, that's not a villain in the legend with the Cray twins. But I don't know. I really like Tom Hardy and Gary Oldman, so it'd probably be. Um, oh, but why can't I think of any of their villainous characters? Tom Hardy plays Bronson, which is is a real character, like an English guy who got arrested for holding up a post office with a shotgun, and then he only got sentenced for a few years, but he's been indefinitely detained for being super violent. And Tom Hardy portrayed him in 2010, I think, and he did an amazing job.
Have you seen him in Peaky Blinders at all?
Yes,
He's so
yeah,
good.
he's incredible in Peaky
Yeah.
Blinders as well, and he kind of contrasts Cillian Murphy's stillness very well. He's brilliant. And also, have you got Mobland in America?
I haven't seen it. I've heard of it, but I haven't seen it.
It's brilliant because I think Tom
I'll
Hardy's
have
done
to
a
get
lot of.
back to you on that.
Yeah, well,
Lovely.
he's done a lot of like Tom Hardy tough guy acting, and in
Mhm.
Mobland he plays the tough guy, but in a completely different way, in a very real, very soft with his wife, and he's not very threatening in a Hollywood way. He's just a bit like,
Mm.
okay, so if you don't do this, you're probably going to die. It's just a completely different way we've
Yeah,
seen him before.
I
But it's
love that.
Okay, Shanika, you want to start with our questions?
Yes, I do. So you've kind of presented Joel in like different versions, as far as like when he's opposite Dee Dee or when he's with the police or Lauren. So how do you kind of balance that? How do you set into playing these different versions of Joel?
yeah. I think I had to. He has a very flexible morality, and he doesn't view human life, specifically females, with the same. He doesn't put the same value on different lives. So he's not got one rule for all. He's got different rules for different people and who he regards them. So um, we were looking into the idea of a complex called the Madonna whore complex, which is how often there's a complex that can come up when men have been either abused or neglected by their mother. And it doesn't have to be anything serious. It could just be they didn't get the love that they needed or something like that. They end up looking for a woman that they put on a pedestal, the Madonna, and they crave everything that they wish they had from their mum and the love and the affection. But what this leads to is they struggle to be intimate with this person because there's this weird fear of incest that comes into it, because they've kind of filled the hole that they wish they had from their mother. So they struggle having an intimate relationship with them. And then the hatred they have for the way their mother treated them, they take out on women that they view as lesser. So Joel would treat Dee Dee like a princess and be ruthlessly cruel to Lauren and any other girls that he viewed as not up there with Dee Dee. So whether they were poor, whether they had a criminal record, whether they were vulnerable, whether they were even just something quite gobby, anything that he could do to distance them and put them in that category. It's okay to do it to them. It's not okay to do it to them, but it's fine to do it to that kind of woman, because they don't deserve the nice, charming respect and love that I know how to treat other women with. So it was about that really, and learning the two sides of the coin. And he was a very Jekyll and Hyde character, and then to not play that as a villain, it was trying to understand trying to understand how he thought it was okay to be like that with one person, and he knew it was not okay with another.
And how did you continue to use that once Dee Dee found out about Joel? It was
Sorry.
like, because it was still sort of a switch, but not entirely.
I think he was fighting to still be viewed in Dee Dee's eyes as this good man. So that would be lying, apologizing, any of the tactics he employed. And once she saw through that, there was no act to keep up anymore. So although he didn't put her in that category, he didn't have to keep up appearances. So he was never going to treat her the way he treated Lauren. But it was, I think, as cold as, I don't need to waste my energy convincing you of this now.
How did you get into like the two headspaces for Joel? Like the villainous Joel in like one scene, and then the next scene he's so kind and he's just playing the nice neighborly type. How did you get into those two headspaces if both sides of Joel were seen in one episode?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good question. Well, I worked with a couple of different acting coaches on this, and I think Joel had the person that he desperately wanted to be, and the person that he was scared of being, or at least scared of people knowing he was like that. He wasn't, at home very proud of this deceit that he'd done to everyone. He desperately wanted to be the good version of himself, but he couldn't. So what I would do is, especially when it was with Dee Dee, I would always imagine there's this pull, and he always wants to be a little bit closer to her, and he always wants her approval. So just this kind of, I'd try and work out, what does he need from her in this scene? What does he want? Which would often just be like trying to get a hug, or trying to get a compliment, or trying to get a smile, and just play that. And then it was a little bit more difficult to get the nasty side of him, because you've really got to kind of got to not. The easy thing to do is that, for me, is to think that Joel's a horrible person and to play this generic horrible person. But what I was trying to do was understand his reasoning for things and his justification. So I think to get into it for how he treated Lauren and the other women that he was abused, I would read the scenes and try and understand, find things that he disliked about them, find things that he thought were made them lesser. And music really helped me as well, because once I'd kind of done the groundwork on this, the music helped me get back into it. But that was it. I made a dial of Joel's stages of his mindset. So he would act out, and do one of these acts on a woman and abuse her, or be vile, and then he would get overwashed with guilt and shame, and then it would make him be overly good to Dee Dee and other people, which I would always know in either of the two scenes when his last act was. So I would know how much on this, almost like a 12-hour clock. So it was 100% guilt, and then the guilt would wane to kind of 90% guilt, 10% needing that fix again, and then it would build up and up and up until he would act out, until he couldn't fight it anymore, and he would act out again. And it was this vicious loop and this vicious cycle that he kept going in. So sometimes I didn't know what he'd been doing off camera, so I would have to make up his timeline of what he'd been doing when we thought he was the good guy, especially what had he been doing to influence how nice he was. So yeah, I just made up this weird dial of Joel's actions and Joel's repeat offending. So he was almost like the shark from Finding Nemo. Once he sniffed blood, he would just changed and became this different person. And then
Whenever I started watching Corrie, it was during the Joel storyline. Like I had never really watched Corrie before. So getting to learn Joel and getting to see him in the two different aspects, like whenever he was with Dee Dee, and then like after everything came out and you saw like one of the scenes was of him in Underworld with Carla,
mm,
and he's just trying to get a reaction out of her, and it's just like the nice guy act completely fell because
yeah,
she wasn't giving like she wasn't giving in to him. She was fighting back, and it was so obvious that Joel didn't like that.
yeah,
And
he
it
doesn't like
was
strong women.
no, no. Which you could definitely see in also scenes with Lisa as well. Just how you worked off of them was just so good, so
Yeah,
amazing.
thank you. No, it was great. I was very lucky to work with some extremely talented actors, um, which just makes your job so much easier. It's intimidating, but it makes your job a lot easier as well.
What's one thing about working with Shanique that make her an especially good scene partner to work with? Like, is there anything that you learned from her specifically?
Yeah, Shanique is. I thought I was quite giving as an actor, but Shanique is like she thinks about things on a whole extra level, and she's like she could just she would know what you'd done in another scene, which would influence what she would done to help your character do this, and it made me consider like she was so giving as an actor that I was like, oh my god, I don't even know how to become like that giving. But she's brilliant, and um, I really struggled at first working at speed because it's so fast. But and Shanique was she's amazing at that. I think last year she broke the record of the most episodes done by any character, any actor in a year ever. And I think there's an old saying that's like, I think like tradespeople will say, or they'll say you can have things one of three ways, and it's you can either do it cheaply, quickly, or well. And obviously, I guess at Corrie, you can because it's so fast. One of the things that's hard to do is, and there's not a big budget. It's very hard to do things well because everything's against you. Time and money is against you. We can't go in amazing locations and do amazing stunts, although they do occasionally happen. You've not got an amazing, it's not like Peaky Blinders where you're slow motion walking down an amazing set with an incredible backdrop and an incredible background music. It's all you. And that she can work to such a high level so consistently at such a speed of like some days you'll have four different directors with four different units working at any one time. And Shanique would sometimes be in across all four units. She would have no breaks. She would have no time to eat any food. And she's just still on it, delivering all the time. And
She's a powerhouse.
yeah, I've never seen anything like it. For her to not drop in quality. And there's so much emotion that she's had to go through with her character. And because you're not shooting in order, and especially not with the director's blocks, she's flying, at 7:30 she might be shooting something that happened 3 weeks after what she's filming at 8 o'clock, and then but yeah, the way she juggles stuff, she really helped me with my organization as well, because I was like, what do I do with all these scripts? She was like, okay, I'm going to get you this folder, I'm going to get you these dividers, this is how you're going to use your diary, this is how you're going to do this. So she really helped me out.
Oh, that's amazing. It's so good to have a scene partner like that that you can work off with opposite and learn from,
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I was very lucky.
You have had some scenes with some amazing Corey actors. Like you've shared multiple scenes with David Nielsen and Allison King. And so, what lessons have you learned from working with those legends on Corey?
Yeah, let me think. I mean, I remember my first week I got the Corrie job and I saw on the call sheet that next week I had a scene with Roy Cropper, with David Nielsen. And I was like, oh my God, like how have I managed to get this
Like
lucky?
my first scene. What?
Yeah, completely, completely. It was one of my first scenes in my first week. Um, I think the lessons from them, they they take the work extremely seriously, but they don't take themselves very seriously. They're happy to have a joke. They're not rude. They're not um, precious about the work. They just want the work to do well, and they want everyone to be comfortable. And I think there's, I don't know about uh, any particular shows, but I hear stories about shows that have, long running casts or, big names. So I was quite worried when I came to Corrie in case it'd be a bit clicky or that I wouldn't get on. And everyone was so nice and so welcoming. And they, with their however many decades of experience, didn't need to make the time for me. They didn't need to do that, but they did do that. And again, another lesson in just being a giving actor and a caring actor. They take the work seriously, they don't take themselves seriously, and they have time for everyone. And David Nielsen is hilarious. And I think that really helps actually because I'm there being so serious trying to get it right. And I thought, God, are people taking this seriously? And then I learned, no, they are taking it seriously. They're getting themselves into a state of play so they can play and have fun and bounce off each other on set. Like I remember watching a scene between Steve McDonald and Tim in Roy's Rolls. And the way they bounced off each other, they did a different improvisation about 30 seconds on top of the scene at the end of every scene. And when I first watched it, I didn't really get it. And then I saw it in the edit and I was like, oh, they're brilliant. They're really clever actors.
I've grown up doing like theater acting and stuff, and I've always wanted to do like, you know, film acting. But one thing I was talking to Shanika before we started, and it was about like corpsing. Like,
Yes.
did you ever have a moment where you like completely corpsed in a scene, or like you were trying to make someone else corpse, or someone made you corpse? Everyone just had to yell cut, let everyone get their giggles out, and then kept going.
I'm trying to think like there was a lot of times with me and Shanique where we just burst out laughing. I'm trying to think of a particular scene for you, but um, especially like we'd have to be because we're like just like best friends and like brothers and sister. Any scenes where we had to be like lovey with each other or intimate and kissing, and we were just like, oh my God, why are we having to do this? At first, we were like, it was in my first week, and we were both super professionals, but like and making sure we like brushed our teeth and were mouth washing before it, like the ultimate professionals. And like by like the 15th kissing scene, she was like, "Yep, I've made sure I've had something horrible for lunch, so enjoy my garlic breath." I'd be like, "Don't worry, I've just had a coffee." But yeah, a
Oh,
lot
that's
of
brilliant.
like as if me and you were having to like pretend to snog each other's face off here.
No, like I was telling Shanika that whenever I was like 17, we did Mary Poppins,
Right,
the play, and I was playing the park keep, and it was in the kite flying scene, and our kite was on a fishing line, and it had to be like reeled down and then reeled back up.
right,
And then the guy who was operating the fishing line he hadn't done it before. He was just like, oh, I'll try this. And so the kite fell off of the line. So we're on stage in a public performance, and we have to try and find out how to get this kite back to where it needs to go. So we just kind of stop and we're starting to giggle. And I'm like, don't laugh, don't laugh, don't laugh. And so the guy that plays Bert just pulls back the screen and tosses it, and we all lost it. It was like we then had a song, and we couldn't get through the song because we were corpsing so hard. we
Ooh.
got a little telling off by our director, but it's one of those moments where you remember, and it's one of those fun moments with cast. But yeah,
Yeah, yeah, that's that's rough because once you get that laughter, it's very hard to to let go of it. Especially
hmm
knowing that you can't laugh is the funniest thing in the world. It's so hard to then not laugh.
The worst part was our director was in the front row, and we
Oh,
just
not good.
saw her out of the corner of our eye, and we're like, "Don't look out, don't look out." And then we got backstage, and we quickly muted our mics, and we're just giggling. And she comes back there, she's like, "Guys, really?" I'm like, "He started it." I just blamed him.
That's rough. At least we can go again if we laugh. We can refilm it on stage. That is tough.
During your like the early conversations with like the producer for Joel's character, did you guys talk about where Joel would be in the future as far as like him and Lauren and with young Frankie and things like that? Like how was your prep work and how much did you know beforehand?
So during the audition, when I was auditioning, I knew that he was a charming, charismatic lawyer with a dark underside. Then it got to like the final five, and they were like, just so you know, he's not a paedophile, but he's abusing a 17-year-old girl. So this is going to be like tough, like stuff. So I was like, oh, yeah, that's a lot. So I thought about it, and then I was like, of course, like it's Coronation Street. I'm from Manchester. Like, of course, I want to have the opportunity to be in Coronation Street. And then when we got in, we started having conversations about where it might go. And I knew that it would be 1 to 2 years, and I knew he wouldn't be staying in the show. But the ending changed a few times. Like I think the bridge, him getting killed and falling off the bridge was maybe like the third different ending that had been. So I'd have meetings like every couple of months to try and work out, know what was coming up, know what headspace he was in, just so I can know where he's going and try and play him as truthfully as possible. But yeah, like things just kept changing, and I think that's the good thing about Corrie because it is fast. If anything, if they think something's not going to work, like it's quite easy to change. There were some scenes we filmed and then we refilmed them like a week before it went out on screen to like quickly change something. So I think it was just about playing the truth in the moment. And because I decided that the truth was because we only ever saw him with Dee Dee, the truth, he wasn't lying about his feelings for her. So he absolutely he wanted her to fall for him, and he wanted to be with her, and he wanted to live. He was hoping that they'd live this happily ever after. He would never have these desires again, and he'd just become the man that he wished he was. And he was, but that obviously didn't happen. But there was be some scenes where I'd film something trying to be as upbeat as possible, and then they'd be like, "Cut, we need to go again. It just looks like your end game in a little bit there. Like we can see this sinister face." And I was like, I don't know if it's a sinister face or if it's that, I've been up since 5:30 and I've not had a coffee yet. It's only 7 a.m. I think I'm just not fully, my eyes aren't open yet. And they were like, okay, we'll just try and open them eyes a little bit more so you don't look like you're scowling. So sometimes tiredness came across as evilness. But yeah, it was making sure I didn't end game or hint in any way that he was bad.
Watching your scenes from when you first were on Corey to when it was revealed that who Joel actually was, to Lauren and to your exit. So how did you work with that? Like I know you've done some like prep work mentally, but what about your physicality?
Yeah, I worked with uh, a lady, fantastic acting coach, who was my head of acting at drama school, called Jeanette Smith, and we worked on where did he carry his weight, and where did he when he was with Dee Dee, what was being drawn towards her, and it was more like sometimes it'd be like by the nose a little bit like he was a child, or sometimes it'd be by the heart if he was trying to get affection from her. So and there'd just be like a sense of I tried to put into the physicality that he was almost this little boy wanting approval with Dee Dee. And I think, and then, but I knew that I couldn't deny that when there was a lie being told or when he was hiding something. So I had to find a way of physicalizing that. So for me, he just had this like nervous blink. So if ever he was telling a lie or someone was speaking about something that made him uncomfortable, he'd have almost like a, how did I used to do it? Almost like a, it might be like a hard blink or a double blink. Just so there was at least the truth of the recognition of it, but nothing that was going to give the game away for what was going on.
Yeah, I noticed that as well. That's why I asked the physicality bit because I do love the way you kind of play with that. So that was
That
great.
was his sort of tell
Yeah,
whenever he was lying. Because
yeah,
you know how some people they'll like play with their shirt collar, or some people like look to the left if they're lying, or some
yes,
people like tap their foot.
yeah,
His was the blink.
yes, yeah,
Yeah.
and that, yeah, because I just needed something to know that I was acknowledging that there was a deceit, but it couldn't be, evil hands, because it would be a bit too obvious. So I had to bring it down into a blink.
I always love looking and like scenes like that for like people's like tells.
Mm.
Because as an actor myself, that definitely helps me like develop my skill. Like if I play a character that needs to lie and it needs to like come across that they're lying or that they've been caught in a lie, there needs to be a tell so that the audience can like, see that.
Yeah,
But
definitely. And I think it's hard as well because on even adjusting it, like I saw Ian McKellen talking about this on stage, and he was like, what would you do if you communicating being anxious or whatever? And he said, well, if I was on stage, I might do something big like scratch my head or cross my arms or something. And he was like, if I'm on screen, it might have to be something as simple as like my finger starts tapping, or it's quite. I think it's harder on screen. I think it's really easy to. It's almost like you've got a microscope to you, and it's really hard to. I really, if I'm not like truly believing what I'm saying, I come across so badly on screen. Like my first 6 or 7 months on Corrie, I was rubbish, and I'm not saying that to get anyone to say anything different. I was like, I was new to this thing and the speed of this machine, but I feel like you can't. It's quite difficult to go to Corrie and not come out of it a different actor because it's just such a baptism of
definitely how you said like there's a microscope on you. That's also like in a literal sense because on stage you can see the person's whole body. You can
yeah,
see every little thing, but on like screen you can only see like just their face or just their upper half. But
yeah,
I like going back seeing like different characters, especially if I'm watching a show where an actor has played two different like characters.
mm,
Um, it's nice to go back and see like what tells one of their characters has in comparison to the other. If you could compare your character from Hollyoaks to Joel, how are they similar and how are they different? Like,
yeah. So my character in Hollyoaks he was called PC Smith, and he was a police officer trying to um, essentially his partner, his police work partner, had died, and he was convinced that his partners had killed him. I think he was so in grief of losing his friend and had so much anger that he was willing to do, the kind of the end justifies the means in his eyes. So he would plan evidence and do whatever he could to send this guy down. But I think that was just, it was wrong, but he was coming from a place of he was trying to defend. And at the time, we still have issues, but there was a lot in the news, about police mistreatment and police brutality and police not living up to the standard that we would expect of them. So it was a bit of a comment on that, but I think he didn't necessarily have like psychological issues as Joel did. He was just a bit of a nasty character who was trying to get justice for his friend who he believed had been murdered. So he was acting in the wrong way for what he thought was the right reason, which I guess everyone does it for what they think is the right reason, but he was ultimately wrong. I think Joel just had some serious psychological issues going on, and I probably only did about 14 days on set at Hollyoaks over about 6 months, so I didn't really have the time to get into the character and understand who he was. For Joel, it took me about 7 months of working pretty constantly to understand who he was. So there's nothing that I would take from a performance on Hollyoaks and look back and go, God, I did a really good job there. I just I struggled to take to it a little bit, I think, but I just needed the time to get into it, which I was lucky with Joel. I actually had that time.
Is there a particular scene where you found Joel, like found what the character truly is for you as an actor?
I think uh, it was probably the first time Kate, who plays Lauren, and I worked together, was actually a scene that we didn't see for another 9 months. And there was a scene where Joel and Lauren were in a hospital for the whole episode, chatting, and you saw flashbacks and what happened. And then you see the scene where Joel attacks Lauren. And that we had a whole day to film that scene. The scene was about 5 minutes long. And it was great working with Kate. She's an extremely professional and extremely talented actor. But it was the first time we'd worked together. But then seeing in real time what Joel was capable of, and also having to do the work, it was the first time I'd seen both sides of him. So I knew what I was hiding now. I knew, or what he was hiding, I should say, and I knew the kind of levels he's willing to go to. And then it was the first time I got to play the other half of him. And I think from then, and I'd really worked on, I had like the music and the playlist to get into his character, into different sides of his character. But it was from about December. But I started in July, and it took until December to really understand the guy that I was playing. So had I only had a 6 month go in Corrie, I probably would have not known for 6 months. But yeah, I think that was when it was.
So we have a few audience questions for you.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, a couple of them. Autumn from Twitter asks, besides Joel's demise, is there a storyline that you didn't like?
We had the storyline of the kind of almost it wasn't Scientology, but it was a similar kind of thing. And we had the cult, yeah, the cult. We had this gorgeous
The Institute.
Yes, the Institute. And we had this gorgeous man turn up and promise the world, and then take all the money and then ruin it. So he was a nasty character. But I think another tough storyline to watch. But it was a terrible storyline, but it was a great storyline in terms of the job the actors did, and in terms of the story that needed telling was the knife crime. It was a really tough watch, and it's a very current thing in the UK. And to see such young actors pull that off to such a high standard, again, under the constraints of time that you have at Corrie. Sometimes you might have less than an hour to film a scene that, if we were on a drama, they might spend 6 hours getting it right after a period of rehearsal. And to see 17 to 19-year-olds, 17 to 21-year-olds, and people in that group pull that off was incredible. So yeah, it was a terrible storyline in terms of what happened, but it was a fantastic storyline and such a job well done by the actors.
Yeah, the knife crime storyline is one of my personal favorites of that year. It's beautifully directed, just absolutely brilliant acting by everyone.
A really talented young man, Luca. Yeah. Like, I knew from the first week, we had a conversation quite early on, and he was only 19 at the time, and he'd not been to drama school or anything, but he's speaking to me about his Stanislavski stuff and his Meisner and his technique, and he was really interested in doing a really good job, and I think that absolutely translated on screen.
Yeah, one of our next guests, we're interviewing her on Friday, is Sydney Martin.
Oh, nice.
And she also in that knife crime storyline, just the way that she portrayed Betsy in that moment was just amazing. Like her, Liam, Luca, it was it really showcased the young talent on Corrie, which was amazing.
Yeah.
Which I really loved. And we also got to talk to Jordan Hogg, who directed that episode, and getting to hear his perspective on it also was amazing.
Yeah, I watched the clip of that. Didn't he say that her performance every time. She cried at the same point. She did the same thing.
Mm.
She's
She,
brilliant.
she gave so much praise to Sydney, and it just goes to show like this is like her first like big role,
Yeah,
and she is working along some of the best actors in the game, and that is shown through her work.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I said to her, because we were working together quite early on, and I said, you know, because she was being quite hard on herself, and um, as anyone who wants to do well is. And I said, look, like I, she was quite complimentary of me, so I said thank you, but you took, like I've said, about 6 or 7 months to warm into this character. I said you've absolutely hit the ground running, like you've done an extremely good job with this. And she, she wasn't even far into her storyline yet. But the funny thing about Sydney is she started and she was explaining where she was from. So our closest big city is Manchester, where Corrie is set. So you'll say you're from Manchester, and then you go, oh, I'm actually from this small town. Well, I'm actually from this small village in that small town. And we kept whittling it down, and we're from the same place. We realized we actually went to the same high school, and it's the same drama teacher that made us both, convinced us both to give acting a go. So there's the same drama team at a high school. The reason that that both Sydney and I ended up pursuing acting and ended up doing a storyline together on Corrie, and so Sam Aston as well, who plays Chesney.
Oh, wow, that's small.
So Callum, Emma at Emma Perry 22 wants to know what it was like working so closely with Vicky Myers, knowing your characters did not get along.
Vicky is extremely professional, very talented, and we would chat a lot. Some of my favorite scenes were the interview room scenes that I would have with Vicky, and we'd really be going toe to toe psychologically, trying to outdo each other. And then we'd go, oh well, what if I lean on this here, and then you could maybe come back with that, and we really bounced off each other. And we would also we'd not deliberately, not like going method, but so when it was getting close to crunch time, we wouldn't be joking between scenes. If anything, sometimes I'd give her a look to rile her up, or she'd do something to try and get in my head, or it was really good. Like even something about I think one time there was a picture of Betsy or something that I just looked at a little bit too long, and then just looked at her, and it just infuriated her. And then I think the next take we did was the scene that they used. But it was, and then afterwards we'd obviously be like, "Oh my God, you did this and this worked and da da da." But when we were there, we were going toe to toe. We went at each other, and it was great.
What some advice you can give to an upcoming actor as far as being present in the scene and being a good scene partner?
I think the hardest thing to do, especially on a TV set, is to be present. It's so difficult, and to listen as well, because you are trying to play a character that you've not had the script for long. And you're trying to remember your lines, and you're terrified of messing up because you don't want all these people to do their job again. To then try and on top of that, listen and be present is really difficult. I think, first of all, if you can be an extra or a background artist to any sort of agency, to just spend some time on set where you're not worrying about the lines. You can just notice, oh, so sound speed, that I know what them, okay, so they're trying to get the sound to start recording, rolling, the camera started, people using different codes for different things. I found that really useful. I was an extra for a while. And then also, don't learn your lines in a set way of saying them. I think there's a really good exercise that I use called taking it off the page, and you get your script, and if you've just got a monologue, you can read a section in your head, take your eyes away, think about them few words, what comes into your head. Does that remind you of a childhood memory? Does that remind you of something your character's spoken about? And then you just take a breath in and just release that line however it comes out. And then equally, when you've got the duologue with someone else, you look at their line, think about what's just been said to you, then look at your line and do the same thing again, thinking about what's just been said. And that's a really good way of letting it come out a different way every time. Because then when you are on set, if you rehearse it one way and then they say it completely different to how you thought, it's going to not fit at all. It's going to be a really jarring scene. And I think the only way you can truly listen is if you have the confidence of knowing I've said this script every possible way. I've tried it 100 different ways. So whatever you throw at me now, I can just sit here. I'm not worried about the people I can see whispering in the corner. I'm not worried about that light that's shining in my eyes. I'm not worried about the microphone that's here. I'm not worried about my lines because I've said them so many ways. I can just listen to you. And I think that's it. The more people can say, oh, can you over prep? Can you over rehearse? No, you can just rehearse in the wrong way. And the wrong way is rehearsing one way to say it. Say it every which way. Is it Thomas Edison quote about a light bulb? And he said, you got it wrong so many times first. You failed so many times. He's like, no, I just discovered 1,000 ways not to make the light bulb. You need to discover the 1,000 ways that you don't say it. And you try that by trying it 1,000 ways. Then you'll find 100 ways that work, 10 ways that are brilliant, and probably 1 or 2 ways that are incredible. Now, obviously, you don't always have the time to do that, but that's how you do it when you have the time. And when you don't have the time, just do as much as you can.
That's brilliant. Thank you for that.
No worries.
We have a question from Sue Bellwood, and she asks, "Who did you enjoy working with most on Corrie?" Not to put you on the spot.
That is really hard to pick because I was so blessed with working with incredible people who were also incredible actors. Especially, Shanique. We worked together so closely. She became my best friend. I think I was most starstruck, I would say, by David Nielsen. And I think even just seeing him, when you see what he is like in real life, and then you see him play Roy, you're like, oh my, like, this is completely a character, like, and a character you've been playing for 25 years. And there was a scene where Joel was drunk and was being abusive to David's character Roy, and there's a bit I grabbed him towards the end. It was in the script, and he kept being like, "No, we need to go again." He was like, "Calum, you need to grab me here. Like, you need to sell this. You need to go for it."
You
And
can't grab Roy Cropper.
Yeah, and I was like, I don't know if I can do that. That was one of the hardest things I had to do. But yeah, like Kate, seeing how professional Kate was, the scenes I had with Vicky that were incredible, like the court scenes and the way we bounced off each other. It'd be hard to actually pick because I got so lucky working with such talented people and such amazing humans.
We just want to say thank you, Callum, for coming on and talking to us. Just getting to hear you talk about your craft is just amazing.
Oh, thank you so much. Like, I really appreciate you having me. It's been really nice because it's been quite some time now since I left Corrie, so to get back into it and think about it is it's been lovely. But yeah, it's been great to chat to you guys. So thanks for having me.
No, thank you. Honestly, thank you so much. We really appreciate it, and I'm sure our listeners would appreciate it too.
Brilliant.